Hey everybody, this is Nick Baldwin, and today I'm being joined by Super Sage Northcutt, who returns to action for the first time in nearly 4 years at One Fight Night 10 in Broomfield, Colorado on May 5th. Sage, how are you, man?
Man, I'm doing great. Less than just about 3 weeks away. Super excited for this.
Appreciate you taking the time. It's good to talk to you again. And this is obviously a big fight for you. This is your return, first fight since May 2019, longest layoff of your career, of course. And yeah, you're back. How does it feel? Less than 3 weeks away. How does it feel coming up to, your first fight in a long time?
It feels great. I was set to fight just not too long ago, a couple of years ago. I was set to fight out in Singapore with one championship, and obviously that fight got postponed because I caught COVID right before flying out, like a week before the fight. But it couldn't be better timing. Getting to have my first fight back in almost 4 years. It's going to be the first fight in the U.S. for one championship, so I'm very excited for it.
Yeah. On that note, are you excited to not have to, travel across the world for this fight?
It is a long flight going overseas, but I've always enjoyed the traveling. But I think the most exciting thing is I'm very excited having a large U.S. fan base that's going to get to tune into this fight, whether they're going to be at the arena or they're getting to tune in on Amazon Prime Video. So that's really what I'm excited for.
Cool. As you said, you're supposed to return April 2021, a couple of years ago, got COVID, unfortunately, had to withdraw from that fight. Why has it been about 2 years since not having rebooked this fight? Why did it take this long to rebook another fight?
Yeah, after that, it did take me a while. It was probably a good 6 months or so, or just to start getting better from being sick. I caught COVID. I tried to train through it, and I was getting checked up by some doctors, and I was really trying to push myself. And I think that's what really ran me down pretty bad. I was dealing with a blood clot and just different circumstances. But after that, I've been back in training, and I've been kind of waiting for one championship to come to the U.S. So now, first fight in the U.S. That's what I've been excited for.
So is that what kind of sold it? It sounds like you've kind of been ready to go maybe for like a year, maybe even a bit more than that, and you've got kind of just been waiting for this U.S. show. Is that right?
So one championship had talks of coming to the U.S. for, I feel like, the past couple of years, and then obviously you know how COVID stuff is. A lot of things got shut down, not just in the U.S. but overseas too. And during that time, they were planning on coming to the U.S. and obviously going to make their way here. Then I was like, man, I would love to fight on a U.S. card and come to the U.S. And then they signed a multi-year fight deal with Amazon Prime Video. 12 fights per year aired on Amazon Prime Video Live. So that's what really got me where I was like, man, I want to be on the first U.S. card. It'd be amazing.
If one had no plans to come to the US, do you think you would have just sort of given in, if you will, and gone to Asia, done the fight? Or is this kind of, would that have been a deal breaker in your mind?
Yeah, so I was set to actually, we were in talks of me fighting before this fight, several months before even. But I definitely didn't want to miss this. So just kind of waited this out.
Yeah. Okay. How difficult has it been? Obviously, you're a competitor. You've been one literally since you were a young kid. How difficult has it been kind of just sitting on the sidelines, being in the gym, but not actually competing?
So even though I haven't been active, actually having fights for the past several years, I've been training. I've been training. I've been staying in shape. I've been eating clean. I've been making improvements. So I think the most difficult thing was just the times and the period of time where I couldn't train. That was like, for me, I don't like sitting around doing nothing. And that was kind of annoying for me, just to be able to be like, I have to wait, because if I was sick with something, like, oh man, I gotta wait to get better. Like, I want to get out there and train, and that was the hardest part.
Okay. Was there any talk of rebooking the Shinya Aoki fight from April 2021?
Yes, and that's still something that could happen. Maybe after this fight. And I know somebody was talking about possibly even doing a submission grappling match. Me and him. I'm up for submission grappling match with him. I'm up for MMA fight with him. It would be very exciting for the fans.
Do you have any idea why that fight didn't come together for May 5th?
No, actually, I don't know. I don't know why exactly. Obviously, my opponent is Ahmed, and for this fight, and that's who I've been training for. And just I don't know the details of that, but I know that it's something that could happen in the future.
Okay. As you said, Ahmed Mujtaba, that is the guy you'll be fighting May 5th in Colorado. 6 fights in one championship, coming off a submission win last November. Were you familiar at all with him before you got this call? And if not, sort of what have you gathered about him in these couple months?
Yeah, so I've been trying to keep track and check out the one championship fighters, of course, in my division, and just all the one championship fighters, and they're all so talented. So yes, I've seen obviously the last couple of fights that Ahmed, my opponent, and definitely was checking those out, and definitely been training for it now.
Yeah, what's the read on him? Where are you better? Where could he maybe give you some problems?
Well, looking back at his fights, obviously it's been like 4 years since I fought. I believe there's a lot of stuff that I haven't got to show out there, and a lot of hard work and training that I put in that I'm really looking forward to having a great career with. And he's had his last 2 fights. He had a knockout and he had a submission. That was an interesting submission. So definitely stuff to keep in mind, but making sure that my game is sharp too.
Yeah. And you keep alluding to all this time off, and it's crazy to think like 4 years is such a long time in MMA. And I mean, especially for a young guy like yourself, I mean, you were 23, 24 last time we saw you. Now you're 27. Of sort of these changes maybe you've made as a fighter in training since that last fight, or just improvements, what stands out to you the most? Where do you feel the most improved since we last saw you in the cage?
Well, I think looking at my first fight with one championship, it was a couple weird things. I had an off night. It wasn't my night. Fought an incredible fighter, obviously, and it was a very large weight class. If you think about it, fighting with the UFC, I was fighting at 155 pounds, and then I moved up to 170 my last fight in the UFC, and I got a knockout, and I was on a 3-fight win streak. Coming into one championship, I went up to 185. So that's a huge weight class. It was a learning experience. Obviously, that was a mistake. So I think coming back down to lightweight for one championship is going to be more my natural body weight, and it's going to be something very good for me.
Okay. Do you think, like, how much of a better fighter do you feel like you are, having made improvements in training and working with guys down at Team Alpha Male in the past 4 years since we last saw you? Like, is it kind of night and day? Do you feel like it's a drastic difference, if that makes sense?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm getting to go with some of the best guys in the world, best grapplers, best strikers. So definitely making improvements. I feel like there's so much, like I was saying, there's so much stuff that I haven't gotten to show in my fight game. And maybe you'll get to see some of it this fight. And I'm looking forward to having a strong career. But I think that there's a lot of stuff that I've trained and that I've been putting so much effort in that I'm really excited to get out there and use.
And you're such an interesting case because, like, you made your UFC debut when you were 19. Now you're 27, but that's still young for MMA. Like, you are arguably just entering your sort of physical prime now. Does it feel like that's the case? Like, you've been around forever. I mean, people have known you forever, it feels, but you're still like, if you want to, you could have your entire career ahead of you. Does it kind of feel like that to you?
Right. I agree. You know, what's crazy is someone was just saying just the other day, looking back, I came in the UFC at 19. My last fight in the UFC, I don't even know how old I was because fighting for one championship, it was 4 years ago, right? So 4 to 5, 6. I was 23 years old for my first fight with one championship, I believe. So coming out of the UFC at a very young age and choosing to sign with one championship, I got my whole career ahead of me. I mean, just now 27, I've heard from some of the best fighters in the world and best athletes that you don't even hit your prime until you're 32, 33, sure. 34, 35, 36. So I'm still very young, especially having my career ahead of me.
Now, are you committed to MMA? Is this something you want to do? Are you still interested in sort of having a long-term career in the fight game? Is that something that, we should expect to see a lot more of you?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'm obviously focused on this fight right now. But after this fight, I would like to be very active. And looking into when I started fighting professionally, I started going to school to be an engineer while fighting at the same time, fighting for the UFC while being an engineer. So that was hard to juggle. And since then, I've taken all my focus and put it on the professional fighting. Now signed with One Championship, with the largest mixed martial arts organization in the world, getting to fight for them. Of course, I have all my time and effort in this, and that's what my priorities are.
And obviously MMA is a sport, like it moves really quickly. There's events every weekend, every month. There's new fighters coming in, guys retiring. So 4 years, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, when you're not sort of in that spotlight for 4 years, some people are just going to, well, I don't mean this in a bad way, but forget about you. And do you think like looking back, when we look back on this fight, is this going to be kind of that reminder like, oh, Sage Northcutt is back and he's a guy to still watch and he's a contender?
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, like you said, it's been just about 4 years. That's a long time. And there's not only that, you look at the game every single year, you're looking at the people and the fighters, they improve so much. So it's like, not only with my time off, I'm having to keep up too with the improvements of the fighters and how they've improved over the last bunch of years. But I'm young and I've been keeping up with it. I've been training. So I'm excited to have a great career ahead of me and hop back in for this first fight.
Now, ring rust is sort of a topic where, no one quite agrees on ring rust. Some people feel like it doesn't affect them at all. Some fighters definitely sort of acknowledge that, yeah, like after a layoff, they weren't maybe themselves. Are you worried at all? Do you think your training sort of balances that all out? Any concerns there?
Yeah, I've heard about ring rust. I don't think it's really going to be a problem for me. Even though it has been a while, I've been training, so I can see if you're not training hard, you're not staying in shape, you're not eating right, then you could have some ring rust. Maybe your timing's off, maybe you're not getting sparring, then you could have some ring rust. But I've been training, and I don't think it's going to be a factor for me.
As far as the rest of 2023, how that looks for you, do you think you might be able to get a couple more fights in after this one?
I would love to. I'm focused on this fight, obviously.
Yeah.
That comes first, May 5th. But I would absolutely love to have another fight or two this year.
What's the goal? MMA career, you're 27 years ahead of you, if that's what you want, which it sounds like you do. What is sort of the one thing you're striving for in One Championship or beyond?
Well, I have some short-term goals and some long-term goals. Obviously, I have this fight May 5th. My goal is to win this fight. I like winning by finish, so that would be amazing. But to go out there and put on a great performance for One Championship and make them happy and proud with who they signed, that's my short-term goal right now. And also after this, I like to be very active. So that's another goal. And I believe like most fighters, you want to be the champ. And I think what's cool is One Championship has so many diverse martial arts. You can choose MMA, you can go in submission grappling, you can go in kickboxing, Muay Thai. So I think hopping in some of those different martial arts and trying to be the best I can be at those two, and maybe even hopping in submission grappling, having submission grappling super fights in the future or something would be amazing too.
Well, it seems like you're in the right place because One kind of does a bit of everything, don't they?
Yes, sir. You got that right.
Well, Sage, thanks so much for doing this. I appreciate it. And best of luck to you on May 5th.
Thank you. Hey, thanks for the time.